Good evening, everyone. This is John Locke, and welcome to the Lock in Your Success Trade and Market Update for October 20th, 2013. Before we get going, we would like to remind you that the presentation is for educational purposes only. We're not broker-dealers or financial advisors, and we're not making specific trade recommendations. Also, any trades and or results covered in this presentation may or may not be live trades. In the event something is computer simulated, we do the best we possibly can to make sure that they are accurately represented. Also, the risk of loss in trading options can be substantial, so please be aware of all your risks prior to placing any trades. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube or SMB, come on over to our trading blog and take a look at www.lockingyoursuccess.com. All right, before we get going, I'd just like to do a little bit of housekeeping. At some point in the next month, probably during November, we're going to be switching the format of the trade and market updates. We will be doing them on Monday mornings at 9 a.m. And as soon as I get the logistics down, I'd like to do it in a webinar type of a format, so that I can come on in and go over the positions and so forth, and then we'll spend some time at the end where we can have a bit of a question and answer session with some of the people, and we'll go ahead and post that so everybody can see. I think that'll be a great addition. I think it'll be a lot of fun for all of us. So keep your eyes open for that, and know that change will be coming. All right, let's take a look at the markets. If you remember last week, we were very bullish. We were expecting the Russell to expire somewhere around the 1090 area. The markets actually went a little bit further than we expected, up to around 1100, and we definitely got our bullish action, and that continued on Friday. And we're all the way up to 1114 now. Another really big bullish move on Friday. So the markets are screaming. I did move some trend lines in here a little bit. I moved this purple line to more accurately represent what's actually been happening. And in doing so, I'm doing this also, and I put this orange line in here. And this is an effort to figure out where the Russell's going to top out. If we run our Fibonacci or price targets on the Russell, it looks like we're going to 1040, 1050 area, or somewhere up into this trend line. And then we're probably going to break down and end up the month somewhere around 1100, 1110. So very likely right about where we are now at the end of the month. Now, that said, this month is one of the harder areas. I know we've been hitting the expiration prices pretty well over the last 4 or 5 months. This month is a little bit more difficult to actually judge. So this is a bit of a guess here, and it's my best guess with the information that I have about what's going on, because we're doing some stuff that's a little bit illogical. We're breaking, we'll take a look at the NASDAQ, we're breaking the upside of some trend lines, which tends to be a little bit bearish. But if they do tend to keep going, we should top out right around here. And we'll kind of go over and show you that as we go along. But for right now, what I'm thinking with the Russell is we are continued bullish up into the 1030 to 1050 area, and then we'll likely roll back. It is possible we could go sideways. If you take a look, this is a let's get rid of this circle here. This is a very, very steep rise. If you want to take some comparisons, compared to this rise back here, which when this happened, we were saying this is one of the most aggressive moves we've ever seen in the Russell. Well, if you take a parallel channel line, which we did here, this is even more steep than this run here. So this is an incredibly powerful run, and it was even worse heading into expiration week, and we'll talk about that when we talk about the positions. It's made them interesting to manage this month. So it wouldn't be surprising to see this come sideways into this trend line before it runs higher. But either way, even if we have a bit of a pullback or a sideways, we are still bullish here for a little while longer. If we take a look at the NDX, here's the top of our basic trend channel that we've been running for quite some time in the NDX here. And you see we blew right through the top side of that channel. That sometimes can be bearish. It's indicative of a blow-off move. Of course, we know a lot of it came from Google But either way, this is indicative of a blow-off move. If we do some price pattern analysis, I got a target up here at the 33.76 area. So what the Russell does is going to be a little bit dependent on this. If this blows through this target, then the Russell's going right up to its upper trend line. If this reverses hard early or at its target, we may not quite get there. But this is what the Nasdaq's doing. Again, right up into here, probably roll back. I'm thinking what's going to happen is the Nasdaq's going to come up here. You see how we've been coming up, rolling sideways, then dropping. We're going to come up, roll sideways, and probably drop and close the month right about where we should have closed this month. I missed this target a little bit because we overshot it a little bit here as well. On the Nasdaq, the market was a little stronger than I expected, but next month should be closing right about the same level. And if we look at the SPX, this also, it pushed up a little bit above its line, but this is at the very top of its trend channel. So that being said, do we turn around here? And if we do, is it going to drag the Nasdaq and the Russell with it? I wouldn't be surprised if we actually overshoot this a little bit, but longer term, I'm thinking the same thing in the SPX. Even if we overshoot this area here, we start to come back down. We actually close the month lower for a change than we have this month. So possibly a little bit further up or sideways and then back down. And of course the Dow's been lagging. It's the only one that's not really overextended here. This is just, so far for the Dow, it's more or less a normal run. If this wants to push up to its top of its channel, then that could push the other indices higher than we thought. If this doesn't reach the top of this channel, that's interesting because that might be a sign that everything is starting to reverse. So I'd expect this to come up to here and then at least come up to the 15.7 area and then just drift back and maybe stay in the whole channel, maybe start to set some higher lows here. If that doesn't happen and we start breaking trend line, or certainly this 14.7 area, that's going to be fairly important and could indicate something longer term going on. Although we do have some good support under here, but this would be significant as far as I'm concerned. As far as the rest of the markets, it may indicate a change. But for right now, we're expecting this to run up a little higher and then close the month a little bit lower than we're at now. So that's what I'm expecting for the month, longer term and short term. And let's scoot over to our positions. Now this was expiration month, or expiration week, I should say. So we do have the results for the month. I have some good news and I have bad news. The good news is we didn't lose anything this month. All the trades were profitable. The bad news is I'm not going to be able to go over all the moves and adjustments in them because there were just far too many and it would take us hours to do that. Also, the wins were more break-evens than they were wins, because more of the bad news is we really didn't make anything either. Good news is we didn't lose anything. Bad news, we did a lot of work. We didn't really make anything. So we will. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you the closing positions coming into the month for the various trades. So if we go to our October Bearish Butterfly, this was closed. And you can see the T-log if you'd like, and this is the moves this week. Lots of moving around because we're in expiration week. Bearish Butterfly into expiration guidelines, very tight delta guidelines. So this is the kind of week I had in the Bearish Butterfly here on expiration week, and that's why we can't go over every single move, but that's basically what happened. All we did is we just followed the guidelines as the guidelines say. We hit 250, 500 delta intraday, we make an adjustment. Towards the end of the day, we try to get 250 delta, and we move on. So that said, we ended the week on the 17th, and let's just go to 1300 on the 17th, which was Thursday. By now I had about enough of this trade. We were in the 1080 butterflies, where we were in some 1100 butterflies, and This is what our position looked like here. And I was just trying to outrun the market to the upside. The reality is I just didn't want to stretch this anymore. I was looking at a 1090-ish close. Here we are. We're at almost 1100. One of the things, while the month went on, it didn't look like we were actually going to close at 1090 because the market, it turned, if you remember, it turned a little early and it stayed down a little bit longer than I expected. So I started thinking, well, geez, maybe we're not going to close at 1090. Maybe we're going to close at 1080. I kind of started pushing my trades back a little bit and not worrying about this high because I'm thinking that would be a heck of a run, and it was a heck of a run. And here we are at 11, right near 1100 on Thursday. I said, you know what? I just don't want to fight this anymore, and I just shut the trade down. So we pulled out around $1,000 here. And that's what the position looked like prior to closing it. If we look at our October M3 trade, this trade here was also closed on the 17th, but it was closed a little bit earlier. The reason the delta got so high on the Bearish Butterfly is because I was fooling around with this thing, trying to shut this down. Same type of deal. We were in expiration week. The market was just crazy. And we ended up just making a lot of adjustments here. So let's just go to 1300 here or 1230 on Thursday. And this trade looked something like this at the time. If you want to take a look at what this is part way out of it. Let's just go back earlier in the day because it didn't look exactly like that earlier. Let's just go to the beginning of the day. This is what we looked like in the beginning of the day. And as the day went on, you can see this is a very big up day. We're only at 1089 here. Remember, we ended up the day at 1100 way up here. So as the day went on, I just gradually kicked this this side of the tent up further and further. And then we come into the end of the day right before closing time. And you can see I'm ended up in this position. But the reality is there's really not much left to do here. If I sit here, I'm going to lose money. If the market goes up, it's going to have to go way up to here, which it actually did. It probably wouldn't have lost anything else anyway. But there's really not much more money to make here. There's no reason to stay in. So I ended up closing this position out. If we just look at a T-log, I will display this also for the people who like to look at the T-logs for the week. Again, I was a very busy boy this week. A lot less so in the M3, but still a lot of moving stuff around. And that is that trade there. Ended up closing that up at a little over $1,000 as well. And what else do we have here? We got our October ROCK trade. We had a lot of trouble with this as well. This was closed on the 16th here, and if I go back just a little bit, we had the same type of trouble here, lots of moves coming into expiration. This actually ended up being closed slightly positive. It was more or less a break even for the month. So if I analyze this, this is the position we were in towards the end of the day. As the market continued to rise, we did get, in theta decay came in. I was able to get some good pricing coming out of this. I was able to make it very slightly profitable by like $300. If we take a look at our T-log here, this is what we have here. Again, it's pretty busy this whole week trying to deal with this position, and closed out at, if you look at the reports here, ended up being able to close at basically a break even here. So this was the ROCK position, and of course the October V Condor. We also knew that this wasn't doing overly well most of the month because we got kicked around a little too much in this month, and this actually expired and was very easy to manage because there's really nothing to do here at a profit of 14.82. So that's what the ROCK trade, what the V Condor was. So this V Condor has been doing decent all year, and that's what we have for October. As far as November goes, we said we're going to go over the November Bearish Butterfly in detail. So we will go ahead and do that. For the most part, this trade has not needed anything since we started it. That is until this week. If you take a look at this on Monday, this started with 1050 shorts. We had our pullback, so no big deal there. And boom, the market starts taking off. If we take a look at our T-log here, on the 17th, we started doing our magic work here. We did hit a delta theta problem prior to hitting our add point, so what we ended up doing is pulling off our 1050 butterflies, rolling them at 1070, adding some 1090s. So if we come to the end of the day, I'm sorry, this is the 7th, but if we come to the end of the day on the 17th, here we are early in the day, we're at our 1050 butterflies, and here we go to the end of the day, we had a significant up move, we did our roll, and we to 1070, we added our 1090s. From there, on the following day, on the 18th, we came in, which was Friday, with this large move. We hit early in the day. If we look early in the day, we had a delta theta ratio problem, but we weren't quite at our add point yet. Actually, right by now we are, but when I did this earlier in the day, we were at 1090 and 1070. My maximum delta on these is minus 500 when you're 2/3 scaled in. We exceeded that, so I went ahead and I rolled to 1110, and that was earlier in the day before we were at our add point. And of course, we hit our add point at the end of the day, so I went ahead and I added in the 1130s. So the end of the day, we're looking like this. And we have our triple butterfly. We're down about $5,000. We are overcapitalized, which I could correct. I obviously also have an option off somewhere here because I don't have an even butterfly, so I must have made a mistake. If we need to do another adjustment, which we probably will, I can go ahead and fix that later on. But this is where we're sitting for now. Oh, I see. Yeah, okay. I should have 10 up here at 1060, and I don't. I have 20 down here at 1060. So I'll have to see if I can make that correction later on. But for now, that's where we stand. And that's pretty much what happened with the November Bearish Butterfly. As far as trade entries, I entered on Friday for the M3, and this is what the position looks like right here for our November M3 entry, which obviously is a late entry. We have 10 long, 1030s, 10 short, 1080s. I actually went ahead and did this as an iron position this month. And if you ask me why, I don't actually remember why. I was just, it's just the way I ended up doing it. I probably was thinking of something else when I entered. So it's fine. The point is, it's fine. You can do this with call butterflies, put butterflies, iron butterflies, doesn't really matter. And we are, again, 10 long, 1030s, 10 short, 1080s, 10 short, 1090s. So it's like we had 10 verticals in here. And then 10 long, 1120s, 1 long, 1020 call, and that's what our position looks like as of Friday afternoon. And also I need to show you the November B condor, which is going to be right here. If we take a look at our graph, here's our position. This has been doing very well all month, hasn't really had a problem with the pullback or the takeoff. I did exceed maximum delta Friday afternoon. I did buy back one of these calls to get myself under 100 delta. You can see here we're only at 14, and that position is doing fine. And I also entered our ROCK trade for November, which was 10 1090 butterflies, which was about 15 points under the market at the time when I entered, and 5 1130 call butterflies. Here is what the position looks like, and this is doing fine as well. So we'll see what happens this week. Those are all the November positions, and also I did put on one December position, which was the December V Condor. and that is going to be right here. We put on the 1180 short strikes and the 1000s, and we had our straddle at 1100. And this is what the position looks like here. This is down slightly, but is not of any concern at this point. And so that is all the positions that we have on. I gave you my thoughts on the market, and we talked about the possibility, or we are going to be moving this this trade update to Monday morning into a webinar format, and we'll just talk about timing as we go along, and I can put the logistics together to do that. So have a great week, everybody, and we'll talk to you next week. Thank you, and good night.